Look who we have here today. Oh, listen, Australia, you have a very decent time zone, Iain, but some of these people over there, it's like it's an hour later or it's an hour and a half. That half hour, I never could figure that part out. That was the complicated. So you're like 14 hours difference. You're at 10 o'clock at night there, right? Or a little after 10?
It is 10 o'clock at night.
It is 10.
And yeah, that is the deal.
Yeah, so it's like 8 in the morning here, which is fine because I was up at 3 o'clock this morning. That's the time I get up. I go to bed early, get up early. That's what I've been doing for, 15, 20 years. So that's not a problem. except when I went to NAB. The transition from the East Coast to the West Coast was, even though it's only like for a few or 3 or 4 days, it's still, that first day is killer trying to keep awake and, everything. Here's our first comment. Good morning. Greetings from Brazil. One of our watchers. I have a regular show on Saturday mornings, Final Cut TV and Coffee, and we have a good time every week. So far, I've done like 14 of those. Try to keep something on a regular basis. People have a tendency it tends to build your audience up if you can do it on a regular basis. I got a comment from our friend Felipe.
Well, look, it's nice to be here slightly out of schedule, but that's okay. It's a convenient time for everybody.
You mean you're up late for you?
Yeah,
Is that what you mean?
I'm glad yeah, well, 10 o'clock's fine. 10 o'clock at night's fine. It's not too early for you. And I think everyone in Europe should have a chance to be awake and enjoying the middle of their day.
Absolutely. So what's going on in Australia these days? You're getting ready to head into winter? Is that what you're doing right now?
Yeah, the weather has changed. It's now pretty much the time when you probably don't want to be swimming in your pool. But at least it makes it a lot easier to look after said pool.
Right.
What else is happening? Yeah, it's getting cooler, which, means it's kind of like summer in Britain.
Or summer in the East Coast. We're getting ready to head into the East Coast, although I did have a fire yesterday, which is in May is unusual, but the last couple of days it was like in the upper 30s. So normally this time of year it's in the 60s and 70s, but I still had a fire because it was cool in the morning, and I like using that rather than electricity. It's much cheaper. More work. It's a lot of work, but it's much cheaper. So, Iain, did you follow NAB at all?
I did follow NAB. I think I saw your adventures in NAB there, and I think NAB is not ever going to be my favorite kind of show. Because I see all this camera gear and it's all very, very exciting, but I prefer to be doing post-production. So the
Right.
camera
No.
gear is nice and it's fun, but I don't get the same joy out of it as I do out of a good editing conference, or one that's really about talking to Final Cut people and all of that stuff.
I agree
It's
100%. That's what I cover. I try to find anything Final Cut Pro related. Sam Messman, Roger Bolton, Audio Design Desk, Digital Anarchy. These are all Final Cut Pro plugin people. That's exactly why I'm different than the rest of them. That and I'm only one person. I know some people have dozens and dozens of crews and stuff, and it's like, okay, but I'm doing it by myself. But I'm specific to Final Cut Pro, as you know. So this year,
absolutely.
yeah,
And it's good to see all those people. And I remember, I've worked for Roger when he was at the show floor in 2015 at NAB, and I remember that was a fun time. And I remember seeing the dude from Digital Anarchy, and of course
Jim
meeting
Tierney.
Sam Messman there.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
it's a really nice, fun trip back in time. But yeah,
And
I'm just
LumaFusion.
hoping there'll be a summit.
Yeah, LumaFusion. I went to I went to the new wing. It was really weird because last year I went there live, and they had this new wing. They're not doing the South Hall anymore. They're just doing the North, Central, and this new West Hall. And even though the West Hall is connected, it's really, really far away. It's really far away. There's a tunnel that Elon Musk drilled under there, and all Teslas go back and forth all day long. And you think, oh, it's just next. No, it's not next door. It is, but it's not. You got to take a car, really, to get over there. It takes you forever. But I rode that tunnel a few times. That was pretty cool. But anyway, I went up to the BEA educational section up there. Serena Catania was up there. LumaFusion was up there. Filmic Pro was up there. I met some other people that are into mobile journalism. It was really, really, really nice. They were up there for 2 days and went up there. So that was really nice. But I'm the same way.
Cool. I'm glad you ran into Serena.
Yes.
I'm very keen to see how the high school movie collective is going to continue. That should be really fun. I really hope that all works out.
Yeah, she's really into that stuff. So but the convention up there was really nice. It was a nice group of people, and I was up there for 2 days. Up there, back and forth for 2 days. But then I think they only were there for 2 days, so then it wasn't there anymore. Sam was up there too. I saw Sam Messman. He was involved with that at some level. I'm not sure everybody's involvement. I don't know with the percentages and stuff, but I did interview LumaFusion up there about their new multicam. Did you hear about that?
I heard that they were doing some interesting things. I haven't stayed in touch with everything that LumaFusion's doing. I noticed they brought in Lock and Load for a stabilizer a little while back, and I think they've got an Android version out now as well, which doesn't really
they do. Yes, they do. Of course,
too much, but I mean, good on them. They're doing a good job.
Right, exactly. But they have a multicam app. It's not. It's a separate app that's built in LumaFusion. Took 3 years to develop, and you can do 6 tracks. You can synchronize them in the app. You can switch them in the app, and then that puts 1 track on LumaFusion. So it's not like 6 additional tracks. So you get 6 4K tracks right now, plus additional audio tracks. But here's the thing, Ian. They demoed I think it was either a 14 or 16 tracks of 4K audio on an iPad. It's in beta. Isn't that incredible?
That's really cool. We are getting so many fun new toys. It seems to have been a while between new toys, but even just the transcription stuff that we've got now is so useful. I've just done a job today where I've exported some jobs from a conference, and there were, I think, 35 separate videos, about 20 minutes each.
Yeah.
And I had to get transcripts of all of them. And Mac Whisper can do that for the free version, but to do batch encoding, you need the pro version. So, of course, it's worth buying if you're going to do something like that. And there are other ways you can do this as well. But I knew this one was going to work. So yeah, I've thrown a huge amount of video, about 2 days of a conference, and the transcripts look great. And to get it in not just SRT, but as a CSV, which is
Right.
really useful. Like the client will be able to open that up in Excel, have a really nice, easy time reading down one column to read whatever bits they want to put in the highlight reels. But
Right.
then I've got the time codes just right there. So that's going to be a really, really handy thing.
So at NAB, I'm sure you know that Premiere came out with text-based editing, and
Mm-hmm.
Blackmagic Beta 18.5 studio version, it's not the
Yep.
free version, also has text-based. They have a two-tier thing. So you can select
Yep.
the clip in the browser and transcribe that clip, and you get a text file with all the time code stamps and everything. And then when you put
Mm-hmm.
it in the timeline, there's a second tier that gives you captions, and it works fantastically. I've
Yeah. And
been taking stuff out of Final Cut, putting it in just the timeline just to, transcribe it. And you can select all the captions at once and change them all, put a background on it, change the font and all that at one time. And then you can also, adjust the text. But that's my new favorite captioning software is Blackmagic Studio, 18.5
yeah.
beta.
Okay. No, I haven't played with that beta. I've downloaded it, haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Right.
But yeah, look, I imagine it is probably using the same AI tech, Whisper.ai, that most of the solutions seem to be using these days. And look, I'm sure it's very good. I have wanted text-based editing for a long time. It's one of the things which I, spoke to Roger about back when he was making Scribe-O-Matic. I said, look, this would
Right.
be really good if we could just select text and make an edit from that. And unfortunately, it didn't really ever quite turn into a full stable product. And it was just a bit ahead of its time, because if it had been around when you've got Whisper, super reliable, free transcriptions, which are
Right.
really quick, it could have been great. But of course, Builder's been doing this since 2018. So
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Longitude
Absolutely.
system
They have.
is a bargain if you want to do this really seriously and you want a choice of NLEs. But it's absolutely great to have this, and it's in Premiere, it's in Resolve. I hope Apple is doing a similar thing. I really do, because I wouldn't use this on every job. It wouldn't work for this job that I'm doing now, because I'm not. There's a disconnect. I'm sending off transcripts to the client. They are looking through on their own, and they're just sending
Right.
things back to me. It's going to be
Right.
just as easy for me to jump to a time code and exactly cut it, because it's always going to be a rough cut anyway, cutting my words.
Exactly.
So I am going to need to
Exactly.
fine cut. It's not going to be a huge thing. But if I'd shot a heap of rushes for a documentary, that would be awesome. If I was managing it all myself, or with a producer sitting next to me who's been able to do a rough cut for me, and then I can fine cut that, that'd be great. But if there's a disconnect, then yeah, there's plenty of other ways to work, and more coming soon. I think the most useful one, I think, is from Alti.media, which is coming
Right.
really soon in the
Right.
next few days, I think. And that's going to be similar to the Mac Whisper. I think it's using the same engine, except it will auto-translate as well. And it will output not just to an SRT or a text file, but to titles in a Final Cut library. So if you want to do one of those videos with hard-coded captions, and there's even a one word at a time mode. So one word at a time, which is something I've kind of been experimenting with myself, to make a title which did that. Tried it a couple of different ways with a couple of add-ons beyond Motion, and I never quite got to where I really wanted to get. And I think it'll be redundant anyway, because you want this from a transcript rather than doing it by hand anyway. So new toys, lots of fun new toys, and here's hoping there's lots more new toys soon.
Well, I hope so. So, yeah, the one word at a time works if the person isn't saying a lot of stuff very fast, because then it's just like a shotgun. You know what I mean? It works if person's talking
Yeah,
slowly and not saying too much. Because if you're
yeah,
doing like a complicated, something complicated, this doesn't work. It goes by too fast.
And every language works at a different speed as well. Sometimes English works pretty quickly, but it
Okay.
does not work as quickly as Spanish or Italian do.
Is that,
Mostly
oh,
they are very, very, very quick languages. Like if I
okay.
think if you hear Alex on his demo video, he speaks very quickly because that's how you speak in Italian.
Right.
And I do wonder if that one word at a time thing would work.
Well, like I said, you have to choose. I use that one word, two word at a time with Descript, which I've been using for years. And it's really to make audiograms. But I have to go and edit it because sometimes it's just too quick or it's not quite synced up. But it's, it's very effective. So we got a comment. You're both looking really good. What are your lighting setups? What about yours?
Okay, so I have got 3 LIFX color changing bulbs. So I've got one up there. I've got one behind me, which is set to purple at the moment. And I've got a lamp, which I can use, one of those Pixar style lamps, which I can use to fine tune it. If I don't feel like using the magic changey app to just change everything around, which is always fun.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely is fun.
And yes, how about you, Richard? You must have
So I
had
have
practice setting up a decent lighting setup.
soft light in front of me, and then I have some other lights behind me, and they're just small, small incandescent lights that I've adapted over the years. And I have one, one light above for the hair light or whatever they call that. I still have hair, so I guess if you were bald, you wouldn't have a hair light, right? You would, because it would be
Hanging on to the hair light. Nobody needs the bald highlight light.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess
Exactly.
we probably do.
Yeah. So you have a new product out. It's
I
coming
do.
out right now, right?
It is out right now. It was live this morning. I think somebody bought it at 4 something a.m. my time. Thank you, whoever that was. And yes, it was the soft launch. If you're in the FX Factory mailing list, I'm sure you'll hear about it in the next week or two. But yeah, it's available now. It's called Pip Kit, and it's for doing picture-in-picture effects. And it's a kit because it comes not just, it's mostly packaged as effects, so you keep all your editing flexibility, but it does have a few titles and transitions as add-ons for it. So yeah, I mean, it's not common to see picture-in-picture effects as effects, and I'm not sure why. I kind of have an idea why. There's a few weirdnesses you have to deal with when things are effects. But the problem with a whole lot of templates which do picture-in-picture things, where they put a little picture in a background area,
Right.
is that when something's a title or a generator, you have to put things in drop zones. And then it's a real pain to time the drop zones.
Yes.
Sometimes it's nearly impossible if you've got a really long generator and you have to figure out, okay, so if I click 5 seconds along, that'll be there. With an effect, there's none of that. You just put the clip on your timeline, it stays on the timeline, and you put the effect on and it shrinks it down into whatever shape you want with a ton of options. And you can still roll it, you can still slip it, you can do all kinds of things. And yeah, look, I made it because I needed it myself. I was doing a lot of conference videos where I wanted somebody's PowerPoint or keynote presentation in the corner, and then themselves in the other little corner. And I had massive long multicams with all these angles synced. So I made a little plugin myself to make it work, and I thought we should probably. I think there's maybe a product here, and went back and made a ton more options and built in a ton of animations and things. So yeah, you can do squares, you can do circles, you can do rectangles, you can do balloons, you can do clouds, you can do animated things. And there's special animations in transitions if you want to use them, which only affect connected clips. So they're not regular transitions. You can maybe use them in some contexts, but it means you can then use these transitions on these connected picture-in-pictures and leave the background on its own. And I've also got some special adjustment layers which fade in. So their effects fade in and fade out at the end. Because the main mega problem with adjustment layers is you can't transition them. So if you built in effects into the adjustment layer, then yes, you can make those things ramp up and ramp out. And it is just so helpful. I've been using these things myself for ages. So yeah, I can show you if you like.
Well, wait, you got a comment here. Do you know Not a Car Guy on YouTube? Been playing with
I do know
Pip
Not a
Kit?
Car Guy. He's a friendly Australian guy from Melbourne.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
this is Lee. Lee has a YouTube channel called Not a Car Guy.
Okay, Lee Herbert, our
which you should
friend.
definitely check out if you're curious about Teslas, these fun things.
Yes.
Then Lee has a Model Y. I have a Model 3.
Okay.
And Lee has more videos about his Tesla than I have about mine. I have one.
Okay.
Lee has several.
Okay.
So, yeah.
How long does that last on a charge for you? How long does a Tesla last on a charge? I was curious about that.
430 kilometers, which is, divide that by 1.6.
So maybe 250, 300 miles, something.
370 miles.
There you go. That's not bad.
It's fine. No, it's fine. You can get a long range one if you need to go further. There's superchargers around. There's third-party chargers. It's really good. I would 100% recommend it. They're great. They're really fun to drive. The auto driving stuff makes driving on the highway just really, really low stress.
So you turn that on, or do you have a choice?
Oh yeah. You're absolutely
it turn on itself.
You can ignore the name full self-driving. It's not full self-driving. Here in Australia, we just don't have the FSD beta, which is in America. So all it does is it's very good at keeping in your lane, keeping at the speed limit you've chosen, and distance from the car in front. But it's very, very good. It's safe, very good on the highway. I had to go up and down the highway 3 times in a week at like 2-hour drives each way. And normally I'd be really, really fatigued, and I was not at all. It was really nice.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to, let me see if I can get this. Somebody asked if we have a link to your plugin. And I'm going to go to FX Factory. Is it on there yet?
It is. I can give you the link.
Oh, there it is. Oh, wait a minute. Of course. Yes, of course it is. It's
it's fxfactory.com/info/Pip Kit.
They just had it on the main. Let me see. Why did that go off of there? How do I control it? There it is. Look at that. Fantastic. Let me pull that up full screen so people can see it. There it is. So FX Factory, now they just had it on the screen on the main page, which I can do. Let me see. I'll pull it up here.
Sure.
There we go. So they just had yours up here where this mode type is. Now I guess it's going to rotate through because I don't see a way to go back and forth. But yours is the newest. Yours is up like just this morning. Correct?
Yep. No, brand new. I know the graphics are working. That's good. Yeah, it did rotate just past for me, so there'll be about 4 or 5 up there, I think.
Yeah. Now let me see. Vertical video tools, something I don't need. But anyway, I do a little bit on Instagram, vertical videos, but not too much. Especially with, as you know, shooting with the Panasonic Open Gate. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, really, really good.
Let's go back to here.
Shooting giant 6K 4:3 things.
Phenomenal.
Works really well.
Phenomenal. Oh, there's your other plugin. Yeah. Markup. Isn't that yours?
No, Annotator is my other plugin.
Annotator. Okay. Sorry.
No. Markup's kind of similar in some ways.
Okay.
But no, my other thing is Annotator. So let me have a look. I think it's about to come past after Kinetic Posters. FX Factory do have a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Multi-screens. Yeah, there's a few split screen effects up there.
There it
which
is.
I guess, one reason why
For me.
I haven't.
There it is. There it is.
There it is for you. Great.
Oh, it's gone. It's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone already.
It's okay.
Darn it.
It's okay.
Okay.
There should be. I'm going to head back to the page. There we are.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the same graphic. You'll see the same graphic if it does rotate around the top. So yeah, this was made in Pip Kit. All these little picture-in-picture effects are just real clips, which I just put on the timeline. That's a screenshot straight out of Final Cut, including the background being really blurry. That is from the titles that come with Pip Kit. So
wait a minute. That's something else I'm not using. Okay. Well, I keep learning stuff.
Why don't I give you a live demo of this feature?
Why don't you do that? It's exactly. So you're full screen right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll put myself in a tiny little picture-in-picture effect.
There you go.
Here. Okay, so I've got a bunch of things here. Like, this is the kind of thing you can do. So we've got one regular clip down below, and this clip above has a Pip Kit effect applied. This one's called rectangles, and these are all the options. Here is Fun with Stuff Pip Kit, so circle, rectangles, and then we've got other things. We've got arrows, there's a combo effect, which is a circle and a square, there's a freeform for corner, freeform smooth, instant picture, which is really kind of fun, polygons, scribble, and a lot of these have other options in there as well. So we've got different kinds of speech bubbles. There's lots of different shapes hiding in shapes. The dynamic ones move. And then we've got some special static ones at the bottom, which are good if you want to keyframe stuff, because there's some weird things in Final Cut. It doesn't like it if you have really, really, really long clips and you have animations in and out. I think this must be rounding errors or something. So if you're doing insane things like me and having 45-minute clips,
right,
use the static ones. Otherwise, you're fine. I've tested this, like 5-minute clips, not a problem at all. But 45-minute clips, yeah, you'll want to use the static ones and either not animate them or animate them yourself. Okay, so this is how you would use it. Okay, well, I might actually come back to that one. Here's another example here. We've got, this one is with a circle popping up, and I'll just play this live. There we go. So this is just 2 clips. We've got the clip underneath and the clip on top, so that the circle is on top. The other one is obviously underneath. And it animates up, and then the video plays inside. So to create that, I've just got these 2 clips right on top of the other. So I'll just zoom in to show you there. And there's nothing on this clip. I haven't done anything to it. There's no color correction. Ditto the one underneath. So I can hover over and find out what effect I want to use. So I could put a speech bubble. I could put polygons. But I'll go with a straight, boring one. I'll go with the circles. So just drag it on. That's it. And it comes on with a default animation, which is a scale up medium. But you can make it go fast or slow as well. There's fast. And there's slow. And however you've done it, you can move this around to wherever you want it to be. You can change the size. You can rotate it if you want to. It'll mess things up.
Right.
With the circle scale, this means you can make wider or taller circles. Now, if you ever get yourself in a position where you see that the circle's no longer a circle, it means the contents are not big enough to fill the circle. So make the circle smaller is the easiest way to do it. But there is a content scale, so you can zoom in and then reposition the contents of that wherever you want. And all the animations still work. So you can pop that in wherever, and you can change the outline width to whatever you like. You can change the color, or you can even use a gradient. Now, I like the outline gradient. So if I make that a little bit thicker, and I'm going to right click to get the quick changing effects here on the gradient, then there we go. You can change where that smooths out. You can make that a little bit wider or smaller. And there's also fade outside and fade inside. So you can get some really quite complex effects. And whatever animation style you used for the start will also be used for the end, assuming, of course, you don't disable those ins and outs. So you can turn the build in and out off if you want to. So I think this kind of thing should be really useful. Now, the thing which you haven't used yet, Richard, the titles. I want to show you this. This is great.
Right.
So I've got this thing called Obscure with Fade. This is in the titles browser in the same category as the effects. So Fun with Stuff, Pip Kit. And if you drag Obscure with Fade down onto the timeline, this is an adjustment layer, but it fades in. So, and it will fade out at the end as well.
Now, okay.
Now that is controllable. So I could crank up the blur. It's got, these things are built in. So I've got a built-in blur, and of course you can grow on the numbers to get it up to silly numbers, silly amounts, that is. We've got a brightness control. We've also got gamma, so you can have a softer effect, or you can make it really quite dark. You can vignette to darken down the corners. And there's also a crystallize if you want this effect. You can have really chunky crystallize. And so this means you can really disguise what's going on in the background. And yeah, you can animate that if you want to.
Yeah, I haven't used that either.
Yeah, I think... So the point of this is to be able to darken down the background. You can put text on top if you want, like ignore the picture-in-picture effects. Just use this to blur out the background. It's really flexible. So this one just fades on and off. If you want the same kind of effect, I'll just turn that off, with a wipe to come in and out, then you can wipe the effect on as well. And that is controllable. You can change the wipe speed, fast, medium, slow. And we've got a direction which controls the angle that this sweeps on at. And one thing I didn't show you earlier is you can tint anything. So, you know, if I want to tint this whole thing yellow or red or whatever, that's fine. The fade one does this too. And because everything is all effects, you can just trim to finesse the timing. You know, if your clip was showing the wrong bit there, just tap T to get on the trim tool, and you can slip and just move to showing a different bit of that clip.
Very handy. Yep.
And it just makes it so easy to get the right time. And so the principle is the same depending on whichever ones you use. But there is a really neat trick which I've built into this as well. So this is an effect called instant picture. So it works just the same as the other ones, except this one is using a different animation strategy. So this lets you start with a full screen video and then seamlessly come on in to the instant picture. Now, this just requires a tiny bit more work. And I've seen people doing something like this, but not quite in the same way. So here we go. Just got this clip all the way along the top. So if you grab the blade tool, B for blade, chop in the middle there, and you put that effect on the second half. That's it. Now, you see there, that was just animating up. We don't want it to animate up. We want to animate down. So scale down means it starts from full screen and comes in.
Very clever. Very clever.
It's really fun. You can still reposition that. You can shrink it down. You can rotate that to some other angle if you want to. And of course, you could do multiple clips, but it'll still animate down to that position. So you have flexibility. You can still go from full screen to whatever you want.
That is really, really nice, Iain. It's much more than just a simple picture-in-picture plugin you have.
Yeah, and it'll come back up to full screen as well. But I might blade that A and just turn the effect off on that second half, and now it's going to come back up to full screen and stay there. Yay! That works.
Absolutely.
So yeah, look, I'd like to think this is going to produce some interesting, some interesting results that we haven't really seen. Because I see a lot of picture-in-picture effects, but there's not a lot of necessarily really interesting ways that they're done. They tend to just kind of snap in And there's lots of circles, but I hadn't found a plugin to make that easy. And so I hope this makes that easy.
Well, it makes it easy for me. I
Yeah.
I've been doing, well, when I was at NAB, I've been shooting, dual cameras with my iPhone 14 Pro Max, front camera and then back camera when I'm interviewing somebody, or when I'm just walking around. Like when I interviewed Sam Messman, I shoot Sam on the front, shoot me on the back, and then I've been doing all this manually. And I just started when you contact me. I just started putting a frame around the small video. I just started doing that, but I've been doing it all manually. It's just like, this is like perfect for exactly what great plugin for me.
I'm very glad it was useful. Yeah, it's exactly the kind of use case is that multicam thing where you've got, two cameras and you want to show bits of each of them together. Let me show you one other thing. So I've got some transitions built in here as well. So the Fun with Stuff Pip Kit transitions, there's just a few, but they cover bases which haven't been covered. So you've got ins and outs, which is a bit special. So that's the reason that they work on these connected clips. So normally, if I was to throw something like a radial blur onto a clip like this, and I'll just move that in a bit, then the whole thing blurred, the background blurred as well. The whole thing gets messy. So if instead of that, you use the Pip Kit transitions, and I'll use a radial blur in, then it's just going to apply to the connected clip. Yeah. So the technique behind this is all about, and you can turn off the built-in transitions, of course, here, so that you're just left only with that blur and fade, or fade and scale, or what you want to do. Now, credit where it's due. Ripple Training did show you how to do this. They have a plugin pack which is similar. I didn't look at their plugins. I haven't peeked at what they did, and I don't think mine have much overlap with theirs. I did a different set of plugins which I thought were useful, but they do have a similar thing. If you wanted to use those, that's totally fine. So this one is there's a push in. There's a push in with motion blur as well. And if you use that one, then you can govern exactly where. Let's have a look. You can govern where and how far away that is coming from. So it's what direction is that going to come in from. So let's have it coming in from there. There we go. And then you see a bit of motion blur on that. So yeah, there's enough variety to build in some cool stuff. And it lets you tackle a situation where you've got a lot of these clips and you kind of want to show them all together. Maybe you want to overwhelm people with options. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of different effects onto each of these. Let's try shapes, and I'll leave that other clip there behind. So with each of those, I'm just going to scale them down, move them over, and let's see what we've got here. There we go. And there's a few different arrows in there. So there's a chevron, and you can control how pointy it is, how wide it is. So you can get your own. You can certainly customize these shapes quite a lot. There's a plain boring triangle, and there's one called pointy. Just that one. The rectangle doesn't do anything with that one, obviously. So yeah, let's shrink that one down. So I tried to keep these. Keep these useful without being too complicated. I didn't want to go nutso. Now this one is good. This is the retro style plugin, and all 4 points of this can be moved. So you can get a custom shape, and you can control the roundness on that as well if you want.
There you go. And the other thing is, when I use it, you can also use the position tool in the viewer, right? Because I do that to do it by hand.
Right. Yeah, you can absolutely use the position tool in the viewer. So if I was to go to the transform option here, then you can move it around, and that'll work fine so long as you're not using scale down. So scale down because it's coming in from full screen.
Okay.
It'll need to be not repositioned that way. But if you're doing the other ones, totally fine. It's completely okay to do that. So yeah, if you'd rather do that, that's fine.
So speaking
the
of the viewer, why can't I position something when I have that selected with the arrow keys in the viewer?
Up here.
I'm saying in Final Cut, you know, every place else I can use a position, you know, left and right arrow, up and down arrow to position something, but it doesn't work in Final Cut in the viewer.
I think the arrow keys are already spoken for. I think that's the main problem. For nudging, is there a good way to do it? I don't think there is. No.
I don't think there is either.
Because command arrows, control arrows, they all do something already. So there we go. Yeah, that's cool.
There you go.
But I'm gonna obscure out that background element there and crank up the vignette and crank up the blur. So nice. There we go.
And it's all playing in real time.
Oh yeah. Yep. So this is all 1080p. Obviously, it works in 4K. These are all 4K clips, I think. Info? No, maybe they're not. No, these are 1080p clips, but a lot of these other clips are definitely 4K. Anything I shot myself here is 4K. Many of these have come from Pexels, which is, of course, a great place to get vision. But these are both 4K clips. This is pre-rendered, though, to be fair. There is one more. Zoom in and out. This is useful no matter what you're doing, picture-in-picture or not. So there's the picture-in-picture effect. And if I want to zoom in on that, I'm just going to move that over, punch in, and it'll punch out at the end.
And do you have speed adjustment for those? For this? Yes.
Of course.
Of course.
Fast, medium, slow. Yeah. And how much do you want to zoom in? And do you want to move over a bit? And so that works fine.
You've packed a lot into this plugin effect.
Yeah. Yeah. These are all things that I use. And, you know, I've been trying to find a home for a few of these ideas and little plugins. And I thought the Zoom one, look, I use stuff like that all the time. And so I definitely wanted to, to make sure that it was out there and more usable for people. I'll just throw a ripple on there. That one's kind of fun. Oh, speech bubbles. I want to see people do this, use the speech bubbles and do something cool with that. Let's come back to the beginning of that one. Because you can move the angle around to different angles. You can also change the scale. That one's kind of fun. I'd like to see a video of one person talking to another one with this.
Now, can you place that? I presume you can place that on a text file, picture-in-picture?
To put text in there, yeah. So if you were to make a text element and then apply that effect, then sure, that'll work. So here's a basic title. Probably if you wanted to make that title, if I apply that effect, no. See, what you'd want to do is make a compound clip with a background in it first.
Okay.
Because what's happening is, because there's no background around the text, it just snaps right to it. So
I see.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty straightforward. You just need a solid
just a regular background, sure.
Underneath the title.
Compound it.
And then compound that. And then speech bubble. Where are we? Oh, hang on. Did I speech bubble that?
Is it turned on?
I think Final Cut's freaked out.
Is that turned on? The compound clip looks like it's turned off. Visibility.
It's turned on. I think this feels like a Final Cut Pro bug, so I'm going to go to something else and come back.
Okay. Well, it can be done anyway.
It can be. There we are.
There you go.
It can be done.
There you go.
Yeah, no, it works. It's fine.
So you can do a speech bubble with actual speech in it. That's what I was wondering.
Indeed. Indeed you can. And that'll animate up.
So like I said, I've been doing manually, resizing, positioning, putting a background in, adding a drop shadow. I just recently started doing little frame around the small picture-in-picture. But now I do frame around both the small and the large both, and I reposition them so they're not, it's not full screen and I have a background.
Yeah, and look, it should be much easier. Like I did look up I just Googled, Pip tutorials and found a ton for Premiere, and they were all how to do it manually. And it's
right.
Really? You're kind of masking a circle and using multiple layers, and this seems tedious. But the absolute mega joy of this stuff, which I didn't even think about when I was making this until much later, you can save this as effects presets because they're just effects. So anything you spend time customizing, like that shrunk down little thing, let's maybe set a particular color. Actually, I'm going to use the outline offset. I'm going to put that just outside. I'm going to make it, keep it a bright blue, something like that. Let's make it a little thinner. Right, I can just hit Save Effects Preset. And I'm going to call it Funky Speech Bubble. And then if I find some other clip that I want to put Funky Speech Bubble on, and just search for Funky, make sure I'm looking at all my effects. There is Funky Speech Bubble, and it's done.
Fantastic.
That's actually pretty good. I kind of like one car thinking about another car. That works really quite nicely.
Yes, it does.
That's good. And yeah, you could use this with tracking because it's just an effect and it's just a clip. So yeah, it's doable. So setting these up as a batch of saved presets means that you can be super, super consistent. So if you're doing tutorials and you want your little talking head to always sit in the bottom right-hand corner, for example, save a preset, you're done. And then you can just do that same consistent thing, which could be, quite a weird thing with, color gradients and, something really fun. You could do that and get a really complex setup just instantly. That would be good. Yeah, I kind of like that too. And I should say, if you don't want any border at all, you'll notice there is no border opacity. That's because I need to animate that with something else. And I did think about adding in another control, but you just take either fade inside or outside and just crank it to 100. Border's gone, but it's fine.
There you go.
It is easier to ditch the border. Use either of the fade outside or inside. So I figured we don't need another slider. And that way, if you put a black border on there and just put fade outside to just about 60 or 70, you actually get a nice strong shadow. Though there is a shadow built in, but I actually like this one better. Just a bit stronger.
There you go.
Cool.
Very, very cool.
Any questions? Anything you wanted to see how to do?
No, I didn't know about. I've been using the drop shadow because I just like to make the small picture-in-picture like it's on the drop shadow, like it's over top of the large one. So I've been using that at this point. And I've been saving, like you said, I save effects presets. Now, I went in this morning to try to organize my effects presets, the custom ones. Boy, what a pain in the butt that is. Because they store all the custom presets in one folder. There's no, even though you have custom folders in Final Cut, in the Finder, they're not put in custom folders. I even went in to look at the text and see if I could figure out a way to move them around, but you can't. You have to empty the folder out, then relaunch Final Cut, then that folder will disappear. So that's something we need in Final Cut is be able to drag and drop effects presets, titles, and we can't do titles either. Effects presets, transitions in the browser, in their appropriate browsers, rather than going to the Finder and trying to manipulate them.
Yeah, it would be nice to have better organization, but hey, that works. I like that. That's just a picture-in-picture split screen effect. And this is with the static options. If you use the rectangle options, I was able to include the on-screen controls. So that can make making split screens a bit easier, especially if you use the horizon, because then you've got that 50% line to line up to. Yay.
So that's the rectangle one. I didn't know about that either. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the static for keyframing. There's two rectangles, one with round corners and one without.
Okay.
And that's because of the picture-in-picture. That's the on-screen control works better if there's no round corners. Although if you do use the regular round corners one, then you have squircles as an option. I'm glad you like the squircles. Yeah, they're an option with the rectangles. But yeah, this is the idea behind this one, is that you might want to keyframe, one of these values to move a shot in or out. So if I was happy with, so where are we? Box scale. Yeah, if I wanted to keyframe these things, then I could, because I'm in the static version,
right?
Which is quite nice. So it's helpful if you need to move someone up or down in the shot, because the X position and Y position keyframing them in the others doesn't work very well, because your kind of Final Cut gets a bit confused about what you're trying to do. So yeah, if you do want to keyframe these things, like this, it works fine. Just use the static ones, which say static for keyframing, and then it'll move up over time.
Very cool. Good. Very good. Look, I've entered your black magic. What do you call it?
My primitive A10 Mini Pro picture-in-picture effect. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Put myself on there as well. So when I talk, people know who's talking, because right now this is just a voice over there. So this, I have to congratulate you, and this is really, really a very, very cool plugin that I absolutely have already been using. I've been using it because I have all the footage. Like I said, I shoot with dual cameras. There's multiple apps that do that now on the iPhone. That's a great advantage to the iPhone that other cameras don't have. Be able to shoot front and back at the same time.
There's very few cameras that can record images from multiple lenses at the same time. That is a very neat trick. And yeah, yes. This is a good way to present it. It should be good.
No, it is. It saves me a lot of time, because like I said, you contacted me right as I came back from NAB, and I started doing the first ones manually. And you said, "Hey, are you using your plugin?" I said, "Wait a minute, I can use your plugin for this?" I wasn't thinking along those lines.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
very effective.
I think one of the things that I would do with something like this is, if you're struggling to convert, say, landscape to portrait, or the other way around, depending on how you've shot things, doing something like a picture-in-picture effect can be a way to actually combine multiple shots. So, like, for example, if your shots are mostly widescreen,
right.
If you then switch it to portrait, some shots just don't work well when you crop them and show them full screen. So instead, send them to a picture-in-picture and put one shot, like put your B-roll above the A-roll. Keep the A-roll visible at the bottom 2/3 or half of the screen. Put the widescreen B-roll shot at the top with the A-roll.
Okay.
And you can get really imaginative with those. And these plugins will work with vertical as well.
Perfect. So this makes, you have two plugins now in FX Factory?
I do. There's this one, and there is Annotator, which is the one which puts, that is built as titles, and it puts, looking. Yeah, it puts either synthetic generated arrows, check marks, circles, chalk, or handmade ones. So these are actually hand recorded on my iPad. So if you want to scribble something out, you can scribble something out. And because of the way these are built, I was able to use on-screen controls. So you can use any color you like. You can use 3D rotation. You can scale it up or down. And it will just scribble in. or it'll, put a checkbox or a highlight or point arrows at things. Whatever you want to do, it's doable. But they're either hand recorded or there are synthetic ones. You can control the width more easily with those.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's my second. This one's been out for a while, and I thought I'd try something different.
Absolutely. So besides the text-based editing and some of the cameras at NAB, did you see anything else that you liked? Specifically, anything else jump out at you?
Oh, I like the news that PostLab is thinking about doing something fancy for Final Cut. I think they were doing a new version of PostLab with something to do with something more about like the collaboration things like bin locking or library locking.
Right.
PostLab are doing something cool. Hedge
they always do, yeah.
is doing something cool with PostLab.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure on the details. I know they announced something and it was cool. I'm glad to see Audio Design Desk doing stuff. Great product. I was using it today
Great
to build,
product, absolutely.
Build some music, and I'll be using it for doing sound effects to lay as a bed under that music for a promo I'm doing for a new game coming soon. Should be fun.
Okay.
And yeah, there's some interesting products. But
I think the best quote I was talking to.
Springs to mind. So,
I was
Hedge
talking
Audio
to
Design Desk are probably the most exciting.
When I was talking to Sam Messman over there at OWC booth, and I said, so everywhere I see AI, the word's AI, but it's not really there on a lot of products. They're just talking about it. And the best quote was from Jim Tierney over there at Digital Anarchy. I said, because he has a new version of Beauty Box coming out. And I said, does it use AI? He goes, well, we sprinkled a little bit of AI on it, just, sprinkled. And Sam said, that's what AI is. It's like a spice. Everybody's using it like a spice to sprinkle on their products. But that in live...
It's definitely the big buzzword.
Yeah. I stopped over the...
Go ahead. Go for it.
Now, I stopped over the Panasonic guys. I stopped over there because I'm interested in that new Panasonic S5 II Mark II X, the X version. It's not out yet. I'm interested in that camera, so I stopped over there.
Yeah, they had that on display, but you couldn't touch it yet? Is that the deal?
They had it. Did they have the X there? I don't remember, but I was talking to them about, the X. They said it'll be out the end of May. So
that's not far away. It is May.
Yes, exactly. Well, I've been waiting. I've been patiently waiting. I wanted to see if Sony came out with anything at NAB. The A7S4 or the A7 V, because those are the two other cameras that I would consider, but they didn't. So, and the other thing is, listen, the Lumix S5 Mark II X, it's $2,200, and it does. You can record ProRes RAW externally on an Atomos recorder, and it records ProRes RAW internally on the camera. I'm not ProRes RAW, just ProRes. Yeah. Sorry, just ProRes internally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, like the GH6 does ProRes, and I think it'll do ProRes RAW as well. So it's like a full frame GH6 with I think only a couple of minor limitations, but full frame.
Yeah, full frame. Well, I got to get new lenses. I'm going to buy the kit lens that comes with it because it's only $300 more. It's not a great lens, but it's a good starter lens. And then I'll probably get this Sigma. I was looking at the Sigma lens, the 2.8 f-stop Sigma. That's a zoom, somewhat of a zoom, and that's probably the next one I would get after that. Or I'll just get a prime, one or two primes, one or the other. Yeah, so easy to switch out.
Well, you see, I got spoiled recently-ish. I may have spoken about this last time, but yeah, the Sigma 18-35 1.8 with a speed booster on GH6 is f1.2. It's super, super shallow. Yes. It's great.
That's what I got. That's what I'm recording on. I have it on my GH4 for my webcam. It's been sitting there for years. I haven't used my GH5 for a while, so I use my GH4 here, and that Sigma's sitting right there. I wish I could use it on the new Lumix, but I can't, of course. Well, I could, but it's going to be a crop, some kind of I can't figure the cropping out. Just the heck with it.
it's now coming back to AI, there is potential for AI to be amazing, life-changing, and so on.
Okay.
A lot of the AI stuff that's coming out is really, really good at stuff that's been really, really hard, but it's not stuff that everybody wants to do. So the stuff that AI is really helping with at the moment, and at the moment, I mean, like with tools like Runway and with what has been demoed from Adobe for their Firefly video tools, some of that looks really genuinely useful, but the details are going to be in the implementation. Like, for example, did you know Premiere does actually support keywords? It's just the interface is so arcane that nobody uses them.
I
And
didn't know that.
if a feature is not easy to use, it may as well not be there. It's got to be exposed. Resolve can apparently do something like that as well, but it's just not quite as well handled. And there are some things it can't do, and they make all the difference in ease of use and cataloging
Oh,
media.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's some the things which Runway is very good at is making things that look like animation or claymation or art. So we're going to see a whole lot of animated style movies, which can have been made entirely using AI or shot a very rough real world video that they then turn into really cool animation. So that stuff will happen. Now the stuff which Adobe's demoing as coming soon, some of it is along those lines. Some of it is like asking Siri to do stuff for you. So some things are like typing in text, make the face lighter, set it to golden hour, things like that.
Right.
But then there's the other stuff which goes a whole other level beyond. So, and this is the really nice thing about stacking one AI tool onto the next, onto the next. So Adobe have demoed a new feature coming soon, which is to turn a script into a storyboard and then turn the storyboard into an edited animatic.
Hmm.
Now, that's nuts that somebody could write a script and spit out a finished animatic version of a whole movie, which could then obviously be re-edited and retimed, and you could just turn the script into text to speech because voice synthesis is a thing as well. That's going to help us make better movies. That would be really, really cool because most clients can't make that logical jump from script to finished product. They can't imagine what it's going to be.
Right.
But this is just connecting things that AIs are good at. They're good at making rough art that's going to be thrown away, but it's just as a stand-in. They're good at, making bad-looking videos based on those stills. And the voice synthesis stuff's getting pretty good. Not perfect, not professional level. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people are also are super excited about AI, and it's like, look how much better it's gotten. It'll be making movies for us soon. And no, it won't, because you can go from here to here to here to here to here to here, and then you hit that ceiling. There's this gap up to professional level, which I just don't see AI being able to make perfect stuff reliably. It took a really long time to get an image of the Pope in a puffer jacket, which actually fooled people. And the reason it fooled people is they threw away all the images that didn't fool people, and they cropped out the hand, which still looked like garbage.
Hmm.
So to get reliable, really good AI stuff, just like you can't get a proper self-driving Tesla that will self-drive 100% of the time, that
Right.
last little bit is really, really hard. So what I would like to see is smarter assistants to learn our software for us and be able to answer questions about how do I accomplish this thing? Because there's all kinds of cool things you can do with scripting utilities. So imagine if you could have an AI which was built into Command Post that you could say, make me a timeline which has the first 5 seconds of every one of my clips, but skip the first 3 or 4 seconds of each one. And it just went and did that. Now, that's the kind of thing which today's AIs could probably do, but we're lacking that glue. We're lacking that connection. And given that Adobe are demoing stuff like this as we want to make this happen, they're doing the
Right.
text to instruction stuff.
Right.
This stuff should happen. And I can see that being a much bigger deal than being able to generate images, which is, important for some people, not important for everyone. Most people want things that look like the real world. They will be used. AI is going to do good utility stuff. It's going to make it easier to remove objects. It's going to be good for image segmentation, removing people from backgrounds. It's not going to be perfect, so it won't displace the existing tools professionals are using for that stuff for everything. It'll make some great iPhone apps to do things for people who don't need it to be perfect. And it'll be great for utilities. And the audio cleanup stuff is amazing. I mean,
it is amazing, yeah.
I mean, I can take very average audio and voice isolation, loudness, crank them up a bit.
Yeah.
And suddenly
absolutely.
Bad audio sounds acceptable.
Yes. Yes.
That's great. And that's an example of AI completely eating the existing solutions lunch. So I think most video people aren't going to need to buy RX anything anymore. There's still definite utility in that, but you have to know what you're doing.
Because
if you don't know what you're doing, you take voice isolation.
If you have a clip that's distorted, you can clean it up with multiple passes.
Is amazing.
Exactly, because sometimes I get music clips and they're just crunchy, and I say, let me run a couple of low-level versions, one after the other, and it does absolutely improves it. Not the same as voice isolation. So the comment is, do you think that all this AI hysteria is driving users away from Apple Pro apps? I think he means not Pro Tools.
I think if people if they see a use in their workflow for a tool that isn't in Apple's Pro apps yet, maybe. I mean, I think if you switch from Final Cut to Premiere to get text to, rough cutting by text, I think maybe you're going to miss the things in Final Cut that Premiere doesn't have. All these apps are going to have their own strengths and weaknesses. You can always augment. If you want good transcriptions, you can get it. If you want to cut text and make a rough cut, you can do that with Builder. You've been able to do it for years and years now. I don't think it's necessary to have everything built into the app, because there's always stuff that the app's not going to do. You're always going to have more advanced AI stuff in Runway.
Right.
It would be good to have auto transcription in Final Cut. Don't get me wrong. I think Apple's in a fantastic position to recognize the contents of clips. Auto keywords based on the contents of the clips. Please, please, please. That would be great. AI stuff, there should be more. But as ever, Apple don't comment on future plans or products.
However, wait a minute. They do when they want to. Okay? They do. Listen. Now, wait a minute. Last March, they allowed a beta version of Final Cut Pro to be previewed on YouTube by multiple people. And when we were at the Creative Summit, the same thing happened. Was it for 10.4.4? We got a preview of it in November, and it didn't come out until December. So twice. Those are two big examples where they absolutely allowed a preview beta version of Final Cut Pro to be released to the public. So they do it. Just that it's very selective.
They do it every now and again. Yeah. Well, as ever, like, who knows?
Well,
who knows?
I see people all the time that the biggest app that's people are switching to is Blackmagic Resolve from Final Cut. I see that all the time. Now, Blackmagic Resolve is I like Resolve. I have the studio version. I like it a lot. It is much more complex than Final Cut. I'm not afraid of complexity. I like to have more control of my apps rather than saying, oh, well, we can't put that in because people will be confused. No. Do like Logic does and have advanced preferences. You can put advanced preferences on, if you want them. If you don't want them, you can have it simpler. But I like to have for example, keyframing in Final Cut is still just very rudimentary compared to motion.
It could be improved, yeah.
Yeah, compared to motion. That and this, and the ability to open up a compound clip in place in the timeline instead of jumping to another timeline that has no relation to your main timeline, right? Just drop it down right in place for you, things like that. So we all have, things that we want to see in Final Cut, and it's, we've only had 2 updates, feature updates in over a year. So something has to be going on. I mean, to me, something has to be going on big.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
we who knows? As ever, most people don't know, and those who do know can't say. So
right.
it's all just guesses. But
no, absolutely.
I think there's a whole lot of people. I'm switching to Resolve, or I'm switching to whatever, or I'm switching away from blah blah blah. It feels like something where YouTube video editors are more likely to do than anybody else. There's a whole lot of people who don't care about the editing program they're using, in as much as they don't look at it, they don't consider it, they don't really learn how to use it fully. There's so many people who use Final Cut who are not video editors natively, who do a lot of video editing, but couldn't care less about the weeds like we're talking about here.
Right.
I was watching a really very random, quite Australian video the other day. It's this guy who I'm not sure if he's a real Uber driver or a fake Uber driver, but he's got multiple cameras in his car, and he drives people around who are quite drunk late at night, and then he makes funny videos about it.
With their permission, I hope.
He's using Final Cut because it was in the background of one of the videos, because he plays himself as, editor and driver and he has multiple different personas, and he couldn't care less. I'm sure he's faster in Final Cut than he would be in one of the other apps. If you care a lot about editing, use whatever is fastest. Use whatever enhances your special focuses. If you care about the technical stuff and you really care about color grading, absolutely explore Resolve. And if you want to work professionally and go work for video production companies, learn Resolve and Premiere. And
absolutely.
probably Avid as well.
If you have the time, yes, absolutely.
If that's what you want to do, then it makes sense to learn as many things as possible. If you're not trying to work in the video production sphere, like I'm not, then
I'm not either.
I don't mind that. I'm not going to jump ship to Premiere or Resolve anytime soon.
Well, the thing that I say all the time is, using an NLE is not a zero-sum game. You don't have to quit one to go use another. If you've already paid for Final Cut Pro, you're not going to delete it, right? You've already paid $299, 12 years ago?
There's an awful lot of absolutes online on YouTube.
Yes.
I'm quitting this. I'm shifting for this, because it's clickbait, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Everyone's talking about this. Everyone's doing this. Nobody uses blah. It's all garbage. No, right. You don't know what everybody's doing. It's just this hyperbolic phrase which drives me a bit nuts, because people do then get this hooked in their brain. Oh, everyone's using Premiere. I must be using Premiere too. Blah, blah. It's like, use whatever you want, please. Think for yourself. Well, you don't need to be part of the magical everybody nobody crowd.
And eBay 2017, Apple announced 2 million users. 1 year later, NAB 2018, they had 500,000 more users to 2.5 million. That was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago. They've got to be up to probably 5 million users, especially when they did the 90-day free trial during the pandemic. A lot of those people probably rolled over.
It's still a 90-day free trial.
Yeah, probably a lot of those people rolled over into buying it as well. But listen, it's $2.99, okay? Even a student can avoid a few lattes from Starbucks and save up for $2.99. And so far, not saying it's going to be forever, but so far that's been the only price we've paid for the last 12 years, compared to Adobe, which would be thousands of dollars on top of that for the last 12 years.
Yeah, no, it's a bargain. I mean, Final Cut, and to be fair, the Resolve Studio, about the same price, one-off purchase, plenty of updates since the original release.
Tons,
Yeah, I mean,
tons of features and
if you're
bug
in,
fixes and optimizations.
yeah, and all of these things. I mean, getting video gear is not cheap. Video production is not a cheap game. If you're making a living from all of this, you should be paying for this software within half a gig. Um,
Right.
it's not a huge amount of money in the scheme of things. I understand it absolutely is for hobbyists, and everyone starts out from somewhere.
Right.
And I think that's I'm sure there's an awful lot of people who started out on free and pirated software who
Hmm.
eventually went in, took it seriously, and either bought the software when they, you know, could afford to, were making money from it. But it is really good that there's a free trial and that Resolve has a free version and people can shoot on their phones. Things are much more affordable and easier than they've ever been. But yeah, it's outright purchase is still a win.
No, it absolutely is. When I like software, I like to buy it and have my copy. There's a few pieces of software that I do subscriptions for, but they're reasonably priced. And the ones that I really like are the ones that don't cut you off if you stop the subscription, that you can still use the version that you have, right? Doesn't that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
the way
no,
to
it's
do
good.
it.
That's the best way to work. And
Yeah.
that's the fair way to go, because I've got some old computers which can't be upgraded anymore, and the software that's on there, it may not be the latest version of the software, but it still works.
Yes.
Um, you know, and that's good. I'm glad that that stuff doesn't require a subscription for no benefit, because
Right.
some
So
things are perfectly okay to have a subscription if you're running on
yeah.
server hardware, if you're constantly updating the software. Yeah, I get it. That's justified.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
initially, I was
not on
doing
everything.
subscriptions for transcription services like Descript. I got that initially because it gave 10 hours of transcription per month for a very reasonable, I think it was like $9 a month. I said, well, that's worth $1 an hour for transcriptions. Now, of course, like you
Yeah.
said, I got the AI, whatever that pro video AI thing is. But now I like Resolve because I can do the rough cut without uploading to a server somewhere, like you do with Descript.
Oh yeah, there's like it's just a pain to have to manage all of that
Yes,
stuff, and
yes,
sometimes for some clients you just can't do it. Um, that is one interesting advantage Apple could have. They've got machine learning hardware in their chips. They care about privacy. I'd like to see more AI stuff that's on machine, like Siri is a lot of the time. I want,
right,
more of that stuff that I don't have to talk to a very fast computer at Google or Microsoft or OpenAI
right.
to make work. So yeah, there's definite advantages. And yeah, look, we are going to see a lot of change. It's going to be
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
but don't rely on ChatGPT for actual general knowledge.
No,
It's not very good. It
it's
should be
just like
way
everything
smarter
else.
than it is.
Yeah. So speaking of Apple, Apple was no presence at NAB, which is unusual because last year they updated Final Cut the week before. It's like 10.6.2 came out. They've also done
Mhm.
releases at NAB. So this is interesting. People are saying, well, then WWDC, there's going to be an update to Final Cut. There has never been an update to Final Cut Pro at WWDC. They've shown a preview version that's going to come out in December that year, but there's never been an update to Final Cut Pro at WWDC. Does that mean it won't happen? No, it doesn't mean that
No,
at all.
but yeah, the thing which I am waiting for, and which I would love to build to buy another hat and put yet another hat on this overloaded head covered in different hats, is yeah, I want the new headset to be absolutely amazing, and I want there to be some special Final Cut support for, making VR video that is immersive, because this 360 camera is really fun. So I want 360 headset support in the new Apple headset in Final Cut. I would love to see some special kind of support for that. I can't wait. I really, really, really hope it's amazing. I know it's going to be stupidly expensive, but it will be the AirPods Max of VR headsets. It'll be
Right.
better than anything else for the amount of money.
So
And
WWDC just a little over a month away, or is it 1 month?
It's just a month away. It's the thing is, at $3,000 US, that sounds like an awful lot of money, and it absolutely is. But according to the rumors, Apple's making a loss at $3,000. Like the screens in the headset are 4,000 pixels across per eye, which is way higher than anything anyone has ever done.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
High-end industrial stuff. So
right.
Absurdly expensive. I think the screens are like $1,000 each, like something like that.
Wow.
This is all rumors. This is happenstance. This is people talking to people and me misremembering it and quoting. So apologies for the clear misinformation I've just spouted. But apparently Apple would be making a loss. And the thing is, if they do produce a cheaper version a couple of years down the track, it won't be $1,000. It'll be $2,000.
Right.
It'll
that makes
still
more
be
sense.
expensive, or it won't be nearly as good. So this is kind of the first luxury model. So I don't think this is going to be like, the Apple Silicon Development Kit, which is like an iPad Pro pre-M1 chip in a Mac Mini body. So kind of like a bad Mac Mini M1 before the M1 came
Bottom
out.
line, yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that. If it's got an amazing screen, headset screens in there, it'll just be the best thing that nobody else bothered to make because they knew that no one would buy it if it came from that company. But Apple can get away with it because there's enough people who just want to buy the cool thing that Apple does. Plus, Apple are way better at integration. And
so to speak,
that many pixels
that's
means
a lot.
Really high quality virtual screens everywhere.
Speaking of WWDC, every Mac Pro that has ever come out, including the cheese grater, was always previewed at WWDC. At least everyone has been previewed, and then like the 2019 previewed at WWDC came out in December, but it was previewed at WWDC. They didn't do that last year, so we didn't get a Mac Pro this whole year. If there's a new Mac Pro coming out, first off, I'm not buying one. Okay, I bought the 2019 and it was fantastic. It was a great machine for 2 years. Then I got the M1 Max 2016 MacBook Pro. And that was sitting in my closet. I just recently, within the last month, sold that 2019 Mac Pro locally, and I got just under half price for it. Just under half price, which was really, really a good deal because I think Apple's offering $1,250 or something like $1,200 for a $9,000 machine. So I got just under half price, just locally.
Yeah.
Which I'm so glad. The money's still sitting here for my next MacBook Pro. So,
yeah, and I mean, but look, the global economy is not in the healthiest space.
Right.
I mean, every PC manufacturer has just sold a whole lot less computers. Apple's Mac sales are down 30% year over year because, a ton of people bought M1 Max, M1 Pro, didn't need a computer the next year.
Right.
So, it'd be nice if Apple dropped their prices a bit to stimulate sales. We'll see. I don't think they will.
No,
because the whole industry's down.
Well, their profit margin has always been close to 40%. It has, but they're rumored of buying 90 million dollars worth of shares back this year, and then you have they have everything for stockholders. I'm talking about, and they get a dividend and all that keeps going up every year. So, and then I'm looking forward to the iPhone 15 Pro Max hopefully with USB, because getting footage off this is ridiculous. No matter what you do, it's just ridiculously painful. But I'll probably keep my 14 Pro Max because I have audio interfaces that work with this, and I have multiple generations of older phones, but some of the stuff doesn't work on the new, needs a newer OS. So I'm going to probably keep this one this year and then buy the 15 on top of it. So I have two really good cameras when I need to.
Yeah, look, I think the USB-C is going to be a much bigger deal than most people realize. People who don't pay much attention to this stuff will be annoyed that they have to buy new cables. And again, didn't you just make me do this, Apple? But no, it's like more than 10 years ago. But the big thing is that weird little docks like this one are suddenly going to work. So, there's so many gizmos which are USB-C to USB-A, SD card readers, HDMI there. And we're suddenly going to get access to all of this stuff. So that's going to be a big deal. I really, really hope it's going to be possible to record straight to like an SD card or an SSD. That would be amazing. And if it's possible, I'm sure someone will make that happen. And that will be a big deal.
Yes,
for a lot of people who just want to get the files immediately off the camera, or don't want to worry about filling up the camera. My camera's been full for ages because I haven't deleted all the photos I've got.
I still have footage from NAB. I use an app called iMazing, which is my favorite way to get footage off of my iPhone. It's just a drag and drop. You can delete files. You can go into, because some of the apps I use record the video in their app. It doesn't show up in Photos.
Yeah.
So I have to go into each individual app, and that's the best way. But that's so. Plus, there's probably going to have to be a USB to Lightning adapter of some sort for people that have old interfaces or whatever, right?
I'd probably, but I don't think it'll necessarily be the most common thing. A lot of devices which plug into an iPhone today you'll just use a different cable and that'll work. Okay. So, I think you can plug into some 360 cameras. You'll just switch the cable. The other thing which is pretty interesting is there was a rumor I think I've found on Twitter and posted about, where there was going to be a feature where you can get a clean video feed out of an iPhone.
Oh, I saw you mention that, out of HDMI?
Well, it'll just be over USB-C, which is interesting.
USB-C, okay.
So is that, how useful is that? Is that just going to be to a USB-C monitor? So it's actually putting out a monitor feed rather than a video feed, which would be something useful that we could record on an Atomos or just plug into a regular HDMI field monitor. So, details remain to be seen, but I don't think it was, the original article was saying this is a niche feature, and it's like, it's niche for the entire video industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone who shoots on a phone has now suddenly going to have a much, much easier time of it. Especially if there's a new periscope lens and all that stuff, that could be really cool.
So tell me how that works, periscope lens. I've seen that mentioned multiple times. I don't know how that works. I know what a periscope is. It goes over top out of the submarine above the water.
Okay. So if you look at an iPhone, any iPhone now, the image just goes in here, through the lens, and the sensor is just right behind it. Right. Periscope lens, it's not. So the lens is here, and then there's a mirror, and it bounces the signal down into the phone, and the sensor is here, flat.
And what's the advantage
of that? You have more room for,
I see.
It gives you more room for doing stuff. Like you can use different kinds of lenses.
I see.
And I think you can zoom in for it. So that's the idea of a periscope lens.
We'll see. And then the other thing is they've taught, the people that they seem to know something when they do these mock-ups or 3D versions of the iPhone 15, and the lenses are once again much bigger. they're protruding a lot more, so it means they're going to be more optical zoom and bigger sensor. I mean, you know, the iPhones are not great in low light. They improve each year, but they're not great in low light.
Yeah.
The other thing that annoys me about the upgrading of the iPhones is my moment lenses don't work with these newer sensors as well. You used to be able to use the telephoto lens on the telephoto lens. You can't do that on version 14. I mean, you can, but it's severe vignetting and some other aberrations. So you can't, you know, I'm not going to buy any more lenses until they update for the different iPhone versions. Because I do like them. The anamorphic especially is really, really nice for the iPhone.
Okay. Cool. I mean, look, for me, it's all about the background blur. I mean, I clients like it. Phones still can't do it seamlessly. It's pretty. It's a clear look, which a lot of people like, which separates, and phones still can't do it. And I'm looking at the image I've got now in the mirror thing that I've got set up.
Oh.
Ooh, have I frozen?
Yeah, just for a second there. But for some reason, I have a bandwidth meter, and it went yellow for just a second. So something happened probably on my end. But the iPhone cinematic, the 4K cinematic on the iPhone 14 is really, really good. And it also does both front and back lenses now.
Yeah. It's good, but it's not perfect. It's a standard AI story. That's an AI feature, right? That is recognizing part of an image, doing live image segmentation. It is not going to get this bit of my hair right at all. That's going to be wrong.
Well, it'll cut your hair. Tim Cook will come and cut your hair so it doesn't.
Yeah. I don't want to cut my hair. I want the natural, you know, I wouldn't bother putting the purple light back there. My purple hair light is going to be wasted if it's going to be, you know, blurring the background like that. You know, no. I want my natural, real blurriness from a natural, real lens. And don't get me wrong, it's good. It's just not amazing good. There's an article that I wrote for Pro Video Coalition, which just went live, which tells you how to do a setup like I'm using here with a teleprompter and a camera and a USB interface.
Right.
And I did set up my iPhone using a little weird gooseneck stand. So it's just like putting one on the top rim of the laptop and using Apple's continuity camera feature. And it is better than the webcam. The webcam in this Mac is good. The phone is great. And it does have a little bit more background blur. Just the lens is better on the 14 Pro and Pro Max. And so there is that little bit of background blur, but there's not a lot of background blur. And there probably never will be. The sensor will remain too small. So it'll always be AI assisted. And I just don't think they'll ever get it perfect in real time.
Well, I don't expect it to be perfect. But then again, you know, it's just like the new Lumix camera. They have the phase detect autofocus. And everybody's saying it's still a notch below what Sony and Canon have. It's best for Panasonic, but it's still, they're saying it's not quite, but it's dramatically better from what they've had, you know, in the past. So I'm looking forward to getting mine. Listen, for it's $2,500 and I get that basic kit lens with it. I'm just going to get it. And if Sony comes out with something I like better later, I'll consider, you know, $2,500 with the lens, you know, what the heck. But it'll be nice.
There's spoiled for choice. We are spoiled for choice these days. Richard.
Absolutely. So are we going to be spoiled for choice for the Creative Summit in next November, do you think? Back in Cupertino.
I would love to be back there in November. That would be heaps of fun.
That would be. Knows? Well, I think it's considering the fact that last year the worldwide tour stalled in the United States and didn't go overseas, I think that returning back to the previous successful version is very possible. And people were saying, well, they did that because of COVID. No, they didn't, because these were all in-person events. All these events they had were in person. If you meant travel, yes, that could be a restriction. But I think nobody's told me anything. I'm a media partner with Future Media Concepts, so I know a lot of things inside. I haven't discussed this with him yet because usually they don't make their mind up until June, July, and August, sometime around there. And they have to work with Apple. That's a key component. They got to work with Apple's schedule. So maybe we will have it this year, and maybe we will get finally to the Spaceship Campus, not just the visitor center.
I would really, really, really like to go inside that Spaceship Campus.
Me too. Me too. And they can't make us stop using iPhones in there because it's their product. So I'm sure they do something about it. They'll disable them and there'll be a force field where your iPhone won't work until they let you turn it on. But that'll be, I'm hoping that's what's going to happen in November. That'd be great to see everybody. See you again, see Lee again, see all of our Final Cut Pro friends in person. Hopefully. Fingers crossed on that one. Anything else, Ian?
Indeed.
I think we've covered everything.
No, I think we've covered everything. If there's anyone out there who wants to, make some exciting YouTube videos about Pip Kit, hit me up and I'll see if I can sling you a serial number. Let me know.
There you go. Fantastic. I will talk to you again.
Indeed. No time, thanks so much, Richard. It's been really fun.
Absolutely. Talk to you later.
Cool.